hear that glorious song of old, from angels bending near the earth to touch their harps of gold. Peace on the earth, goodwill to men, from Ham's all gracious King. The world in solemn stillness lay to hear the angels sing. Still through the cloven skies they come, with peaceful wings unfurled, and still their heavenly music floats o'er all the weary world. Above its sad and lowly plains they bend on hovering wing, and ever o'er it Babel sounds the blessed angels sing. Yet with the woes of sin and strife the world has suffered long. Beneath the angels' strain have rolled 2,000 years of wrong, and man at war with man is not the love song which they bring. Oh, hush the noise, ye men of strife, and hear the angels sing. For lo, the days are hastening on by prophets seen of old, when with the ever-circling years shall come the time foretold, when peace shall over all the earth its ancient splendors fling, and the whole world give back the song which now the angels sing.
Good evening and welcome. I hope you're already enjoying a good Christmas period, and wish you a Merry Christmas if I've not had the opportunity to do so before. This evening we're going to look at a carol, and an unusual one, the carol Good King Wenceslas. This is the only song or carol that I know that is for today, the 26th of December, the second day of the 12 days of Christmas, the day known most as Boxing Day, but it is also the day that is the Feast of Stephen. And this carol, Good King Wenceslas, is set on the Feast of Stephen. So it's a song about the winter. It's set in Eastern Europe, with King Wenceslas, and something of his adventures on that day.
Good King Wenceslas by John Mason Neale. Good King Wenceslas looked out on the feast of Stephen, when the snow lay round about, deep and crisp and even. Brightly shone the moon that night, though the frost was cruel, when a poor man came in sight, gathering winter fuel. Hither, page, and stand by me, if thou knowest it, telling yonder peasant who is he, where and what his dwelling. Sire, he lives a good league hence, underneath the mountain, right against the forest fence by St. Agnes' fountain. Bring me flesh, and bring me wine, bring me pine logs hither, 1,000 I will see him dine when we bear them thither. Page and monarch, forth they went together, through the rude wind's wild lament and the bitter weather. Sire, the night is darker now, and the wind blows stronger. Fails my heart, I know not how. I can go no longer. Mark my footsteps, good my page. Tread thou in them boldly. Thou shalt find the winter's rage freeze thy blood less coldly. In his master's steps he trod, where the snow lay dinted. Heat was in the very sod, which the saint had printed. Therefore, Christian men, be sure, wealth or rank possessing, ye who now will bless the poor, shall yourselves find blessing.
It's a carol where the message of the carol is summed up very clearly in the very last lines. Therefore, Christians, be sure, wealth or rank possessing, ye who now will bless the poor, shall yourselves find blessing. In other words, it's an appeal to the wealthier to give to the poor. It may, of course, be directly an appeal from the carolers to those that they're singing to give to them, just like the carol "We Wish You," or song "We Wish You a Merry Christmas," where we tell our hosts that we all like figgy pudding and urge them to bring some out here. So it may be that this particular carol is a caroller's appeal for a donation. On the internet, you can find a version of this carol by the team for Horrible Histories from the television programme of that name, from Terry Deary's works, where the historicity of this carol is questioned. Wenceslas, who he was, how generous he was as a person, and all the rest of it. But in a sense, that misses the point. This is a good story, and it's a clear story, and it's a story set on the feast of Stephen. It's set today. Stephen, of course, was the first Christian martyr. Perhaps it's appropriate that his Saints' Day is as close to Christmas Day as possible, because it means that we remember his bold witness. But what about King Wenceslas? Good King Wenceslas, he looked out on the feast of Stephen, so he was obviously observant. He was taking note of his kingdom. He spots the poor man who is trying to get a few sticks together to keep warm on the bitter cold winter's day. And the king calls his page to assist him. They collect from the bounty, the wealth of the king himself. The poor man may have sticks, but the king has pine logs to burn. The poor man may have little, if anything, to eat. The king is enjoying Christmas feasts, and so there's plenty of roast meat that he's going to share as well. They set out to help, and of course you remember how the poor page begins to freeze, and the king encourages him and tells him that if he puts his feet into the footsteps in the snow that the king has already made, that he will be kept warm. And that's the miracle, I suppose, within this story, that there was warmth in the footprints of the king that keep the page going, and so they're able to go on their charitable mission. And so, as we've already suggested, the theme of the carol, the importance of the carol, is a call, a Christian call. It says, doesn't it, therefore Christian men, be sure. So it's a call to Christians to be charitable, to be generous, that it is a way of winning the favour of God. If that's a proper expression, it's a way of delighting God. Perhaps that's a better way to put it, that those who are kind and generous to others may expect kindness and generosity from God. So it's a clear enough little story, and it's a good enough story to tell this season of the year, in which, as we give and receive gifts, we're all urged to think of those whose need is the greatest and to be charitable. But I think in this little carol too, we can find something else. If you replace the figure of good King Wenceslas with that of Jesus Christ, and you replace the page boy with yourself, then you hear those words of Jesus, don't you? To follow him. That's the great call of the disciple, to follow in the footsteps of Jesus, to live the way he did, to take his example as a practical guide to how we should live our lives fearlessly and generously. If you think about it, the choice of the page boy to accompany the king seems to be a strange one. If there are logs to carry and food too in generous proportions, you would think somebody bigger and stronger might have been the more obvious choice than the page boy. But here, with using it as a parable, it reminds us that we may be beloved by King Jesus, but our own strength alone is not adequate for all he calls us to do in following him. As a little page boy picks up perhaps one or more of the logs to carry, so we hear the echoes of the words of Jesus, "Take up your cross and follow me." There is a saying you perhaps know about mission, that mission is to find out what God is doing and go and join in, reminding us that the mission is his first, the plans and its success are his first and not ours. And so it is, like the page boy, we are called to assist. And as we assist, we find that we are strengthened, just as the failing page's strength, life force is replenished by the heat in the footprints of his master. So we are strengthened and replenished in strength as we follow in the footsteps, in the path that Jesus has gone on before us. In following the king, the page gave to the poor charitable gifts that at the end of the day were not his to give, they were the king's. A reminder that in all the best that we do, what we are giving, whether we're giving of ourselves or giving of those things that have come into our possession that we can give, whatever we give ultimately comes from the king. Ultimately is Christ's gift to us. We have nothing of ourselves to give, but we are called to be co-workers together with Christ, giving the bounty of God. And so the saints' example here is urged upon us all, and we do indeed find that there is a great deal of truth, simple though it is, a great deal of truth in this idea that as we are generous to those who are most in need, we are most truly imitating Jesus. We are most clearly stepping in his footprints and doing the work that he calls us to do. On the one hand, Jesus tells us that when we've done everything, we are at the best unprofitable servants, as the older version of the Bible puts it. In other words, we've only done our duty. We haven't done anything over and above our duty. Whatever we do, we can't, as it were, put God into our debt. Everything that we do is simply part repayment of all that he has done for us. And yet, in contrast, Jesus also told his disciples that they would do greater things than he had done. It's a surprising thing to say, but there is a sense in which it is true that all that Christians have done through the centuries It's far more than one lone Galilean, one man from Nazareth could physically do himself. And yet, of course, everything that the Christian church has done and its people through the centuries in charitable works is simply part of the work of Jesus himself. So I hope if you get the chance today, you'll have a go at singing or remembering at least good King Wenceslas and his example on this day of the year, and that, like him, you will look out, that you will be aware, that you will be sensitive to the needs of others. Like in this carol, you will recognize the inequalities that there are in the world. And inasmuch as we have been richly blessed with the things of this life, that we will be willing to share them, to give to those who are most in need. For as the carol promises, those who are good to others will receive good from God. So, Merry Christmas and God bless you all.
King Wenceslas looked out on the feast of Stephen, when the snow lay round about, deep and crisp and even. Brightly shone the moon that night, though the frost was cruel, when a poor man came in sight, gathering winter fuel. Hear the page and stand by me, knows it telling, yonder peasant, who is he, where and what is dwelling? Sorry lives a goodly hence underneath the mountain, right against the forest fence, by St. Agnes fountain. Bring me flesh and bring me wine, bring me pine logs hither, thou and I will see him dine, when we bear them thither. Page and monarch, forth they went together, through the rude winds wild lament, and the bitter weather. Find the winter's rage, freeze my blood less coldly. In his master's steps he trod, where the snow lay dented. He was in the very sod which the saint had printed. Therefore, Christian men, be sure, wealth and rank possessing, ye who now will bless the poor, shall yourselves find blessing. Good King Wenceslas looked out on the feast of Stephen, when the snow lay round about, deep and crisp and even.
frosty winds made moan. Earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone. Snow had fallen, snow on snow, snow on snow.